right, we got the recording going. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for our kickoff of the innovation series. We have our first session today, which is on Blue Ocean strategy and creating a leap in value for your customers. So thank you for joining us. My name is Cameron Law. I serve as the executive director here at the Carlson Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. I'm joined by two of our amazing team members. We have Arlene Miranda, who heads up our marketing and all of our operations. And then we also have Brian Gladden, who's one of our entrepreneurs in residence, who will be leading you through the session here today. If you're not familiar with the Carlson Center, we serve as a regional hub and platform for providing approachable and accessible entrepreneurial education, community, and support to enable startup founders of all backgrounds to start and scale their businesses. And we're on this mission to make innovation and entrepreneurship pervasive throughout the greater Sacramento region. And we're excited to bring this amazing innovation series to you. And we'll be kicking off today again with Blue Ocean Strategy. And we do have some partners here today. So Brian leads a company called Strategy and Innovation Institute. So if you want to learn more about his offering, he can share those links later. And then we also have some support from the NorCal SBDC and their Tech Futures group. So we're appreciative of their support in helping us run this series. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Brian, who's going to be leading us through the charge. A little Zoom etiquette. If you do have questions, feel free to use those raise hand features and I'll help bring those in, or you can throw it in the chat and I'll help stop as we go. But Brian will be leading us through the charge here, and thank you all for joining us, and don't hesitate to reach out with any questions. Lastly, we are recording, so we will be sharing this after the fact as well as the slides, but we do want you to certainly engage throughout the entire session. So thanks for being here, and take it away, Brian.
Thanks, Cameron. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I'm sure we'll get some more folks to join us. So I see some familiar faces. Great to have some of you back again. And we'll talk more about this at the end, but we have a great guest with us who actually is going to be our next speaker in about a month. And Sharon Tall is on with us. And if you see behind me, you'll see her book, Where to Play. So if you haven't registered for that yet, you need to go register. So fantastic. We're looking forward to the entire series of webinars coming up here this next few months. Let me share my screen and we'll get moving. Okay, you guys should be seeing my screen all right, and if not, let me know.
You got it.
All right, let's jump in. Blue Ocean Strategy. Today we're going to talk really about a high-level overview, right? Primer, give you some examples of what is Blue Ocean Strategy. Many of you might have read the book, but we're going to talk a little bit about the need and problem of why you want to innovate. What is Blue Ocean Strategy? How to shift from a red to a blue ocean, and then some examples of Blue Ocean Strategy. And some of you might have seen the books. There's actually a new book, but these are the two ones that most folks have probably read or heard about. So we'll talk about the concepts in these things. And the thing I'm hoping you take away today, three big takeaways, is one is you need to explore and innovate with proven frameworks. Right? It's just not about brainstorming. Two is non-customers, their unmet pains and needs should be your focus, trying to find these new segments and new customers. And we'll talk through that. And three is Blue Ocean Strategy provides a roadmap to find uncontested market space, right? Spaces where there's no competition. So these are the three big takeaways I'm hoping you leave here with. So the problem with innovation is that most new innovative ideas flop, unfortunately, whether you're a startup and 9 out of 10 of those fail. But even if you're successful, over 70% of new products and service ideas and launches flop. They just don't make it. That's a really significant number. So how do we improve innovation? Well, part of the problem is that most of the executives, many of you might be here, you're not happy or satisfied with your company's innovation performance. Only 6% of executives. And McKinsey has great information if you're not looking at their stuff. Really good for both large companies and startups. But those Fortune 500, S&P 500 folks are still not satisfied with their innovation. And just doing a little bit better than last year is not going to get you the long-term growth you're looking for. All of us, doesn't matter what stage you're in, are looking for large growth every year, right? Just that couple percentage points of following your industry's growth is really not going to move the needle for you. So we have to do something different than just the norm. The solution is, bottom line is, innovation works better when formal systems exist. Just like any other part of your business, HR, finance, manufacturing, you have formal systems. You can do the same with innovation. Blue Ocean Strategy is one of those innovations. And the big thing that I want you to think about this in a mindset is exploit and explore. We all are in the normal business of exploiting our current markets. Blue Ocean and trying to find new space is about exploring new space. And a term you might not have heard before is this ambidextrous organization. What does that mean? Well, it means to be able to do both, exploit and explore. And if we look at this visual, this really says a lot, right? 1,000 words in one picture. Most of us are on the right-hand side of this infographic. We are executing, we have forecasts and plans, we have quotas, we're trying to exploit our current market, we're trying to improve on what we do, and this is day-to-day, normal table stakes business. But most folks are not very good at the left-hand side of this, exploring. How do we find these new customers? How do we pivot and create new things and invent new business models or new businesses? How do we experiment and learn and pivot, especially when things like COVID or recession coming up? That's what we're going to talk about today, is how we do the stuff on the left while you're still doing the stuff on the right. It's not an either or, it's both. If you're not doing both, eventually you're probably going to be out of business or have a decline in what you're doing. So what is Blue Ocean Strategy? Well, it's one of the leading strategic innovation frameworks for the last really 18 years. The first book came out in 2005, and then a subsequent book, and there's a brand new one just came out, which I might have a session towards the fall, maybe October, November, on the new book and disruptive. If you look back here, you'll see Beyond Disruption. So we can talk about that later. So what is a blue and a red ocean? Well, this kind of infographic says it all. If we start on the left-hand side, a red ocean is where most of us compete. We compete in existing market space. We're trying to beat the competition. We're exploiting current demand, within, you draw your circle, here's my market, whatever size that is, wherever you are. And there's usually some sort of trade-off. It's really difficult to be at the top end of the market, like a Tiffany's or a Ritz, and also be at the low end of the market, right? If you're being Costco or Sam's Club. So we usually choose, and most of us are probably somewhere in the middle. A blue ocean strategy is about moving away from the traditional ways that we compete and changing the rules of the game, right? And how we engage and who we find. It's about creating uncontested market space. And we will think about this idea. It's not about creating the next big Apple or Uber or creating some new market. Change your mindset from, oh, I have to create this new market, to I'm just finding new market space where no one is playing. In almost all situations, you are not creating new markets, at least in my view. And there's one exception, and this was my dissertation's written on, which is around regulations, which we can get into at a different time. But in most cases, you are just finding unmet demand. You are not creating demand. You're finding the customer's problems that haven't been solved. In that regard, we're finding and creating this space. By definition, if you're competing where there's no competition, you have made the competition irrelevant. And that really is our goal, right? Is to have to compete less. We're worrying about our customers, not about our competition. It's about creating and capturing that new demand because they have problems that haven't been solved. And when you do that, you can break this value cost trade-off. We no longer have to, are we going to be the low end and value play? Are we going to be the high end? And usually really difficult to do both. Well, if you write the new rules, then you can have a very high cost or a price because your value is high to the consumer. You might actually have a very low cost internally. Doesn't mean your price has to be low. So when we create these new rules of the game, you get to actually reap those rewards because you're creating the value. So we're going to look at how you can do that. What are some examples? There's a lot of tools, but we're going to focus on the fun examples that will get your mind working today. So blue ocean space can actually be anywhere. It can be in your current market, or it can be between a substitute and an adjacent market. And that's usually where you'll find it. It's a good exercise I'd like to do if we were in person, is you take your iPad and, as you try and zoom out and you pinch your fingers and you do an XY axis, well, you're going to find all this white space, right? Well, those are areas of opportunity. So it could just be a blue ocean in between an adjacent or substitute product, or it could be something a little bit farther away that's maybe a little bit more difficult. It's not quite in our core capabilities. We have the know-how a little bit, we have some partners, or it could just be something in your current market that has gone untapped. The customer's demands have really gone unheard, and no one has really, found this unmet demand. And we'll give examples of both. So the question at the end of the day is, do you want to keep swimming with the sharks on the left-hand side, or do you want to jump into the right and find new blue oceans of your own? So how do we shift from a red to a blue ocean? At a very high level, the first thing we want to look at is perspective. It's not about your current market and how you compete and who you compete with. It's about looking past your current markets into other areas. Again, adjacent, substitute, space where you might find new customers who don't even buy your current products. And perspective is everything, because we get so ingrained in what we do, we don't see the forest for the trees. That happens to all of us in every industry in the world. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to do a quick little exercise. It's silly, but it's fun to prove this point to you. So everybody, we're in a safe space, so virtually can't reach out and grab you. Close your eyes for 10 seconds. Oh, actually, sorry, open them. I got ahead of myself. My fault. Open your eyes, look around your office, wherever you're at, look for everything red that you can find. All right, good enough. All right, now close your eyes. And I want to pick on somebody. So James, thanks for playing along. Keep your eyes closed. The rest of you guys can open your eyes. James, tell me everything you saw in your space that's blue.
And you have to unmute with your eyes closed.
I don't think I saw anything blue because I wasn't looking for it.
Exactly. I mean, you're a good straight man, James. You can open your eyes. So, right, it's silly. It's kind of like a game you play when you're kids almost. But think about it. I don't know the last time any of you bought a new car, but it happens all the time. Like, pretend you bought a red Porsche, right? And you're like, oh, I haven't seen one of these forever. I'm going to get a red Porsche. And then you're driving down the road and you see 2 or 3 of them. You're like, when did all these red Porsches just get sold? What's going on? It's like, because you're aware of it now. Right before, you weren't aware of it. You could care less because you didn't have one. So why am I looking for red Porsches? They were there. But now you are aware of something. Same with business. We draw our circle. Here's our market. Here's my customers. That's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at their problems. I'm looking at what we do, my solutions, and my market. I don't care about everyone else's problems and noise, even if they're adjacent markets. We have to make ourselves aware of those things because they're opportunities, right? They're there, they're happening, it's perspective. And we're not just looking to sell more of your stuff to your same customers. We're looking to find non-customers that you can solve problems to, who really create new markets, right? And we'll talk about ways to do that. So that's looking past your current boundaries. The second is a roadmap. You got to have a proven methodology, a framework of tools, just like you do if you're in HR, you onboard people away, taxes, right? We have proven processes for finance. If you're a manufacturer, you probably use Lean Six Sigma principles, right? So we have all these things, but when it comes to innovation, people are like, oh, we just do brainstorming. We sit around like, that's a cool idea, let's go try it. You're probably going to crash and burn. You're probably going to waste time and resources and money because that's not a proven methodology. So Blue Ocean kind of gives us some structure. And there's many other leading concepts that are woven throughout Blue Ocean or can be used in conjunction. Design thinking, jobs to be done. Many of these might be foreign to you. We can talk about them later. The last one is you've got to get your entire team involved. It's human-centered. It can't just be you, the owner, the CEO, the founder saying, we're going to innovate and this is my idea, go do it, because they don't have any buy-in. Why are we doing it? Is this in in pursuit of our purpose and vision statement as a company, who we want to be when we grow up in 20 years. And culture is a big piece of this, right? If you're asking people to do more, which is usually, hey, great idea, Cameron, go do that on the weekends. Well, that's going to die. That's going to crash and burn. There's no incentives for them. They have no reason to do it. They don't have any bridge to the other core people and services in your company. So we have to put structure, and we have to get people bought into what we're doing. This is a lot on the screen, but this at a high level is the major steps and milestones for a blue ocean strategy, the process. And we don't have time, obviously, today to go through them, but how it starts in the process is we want to get our teams involved. Again, culture. Why are we innovating? Because we want to stay relevant. We want to continue to grow, have big margins, more customers, right? And this is that initiative, especially when every product or life cycle is an end date, right? Your products and services at some point are going to die. The question is, when do we replace those? How do we replace your cash cow with the next new cash cow? Well, we've got to be, looking for those, and we've got to be testing and experimenting. They just don't happen, and have a cool idea. So we've got to get folks involved. We have to teach them why. Then what we're going to spend some time today is understanding where you are now. How do I compete in my industry? And how do I look to customers compared to other competitors? And then what are those factors? And that's a big piece. Then the fun stuff is imagining where you could be, right? Looking at all the possibilities, brainstorming, ideation is a big piece of this, looking outside your industries. Then finding out how to get there. This is a lot of the hard work that people don't do, experimenting, talking to people, interviewing, right? Getting validation, gathering insights. And then selecting, formalizing, deploying, these new solutions. So we're going to spend some time on understanding where you are now. And a big piece of this, one of the main tools we'll look at is around visualizing how you compete. And when I do CEO talks, this is a big piece of it, right? As we all think we're great and our company's awesome, and you are, or you wouldn't be, in business and being successful. But how accurate is your mental image of your company versus how customers look at you, right? Do you look in the mirror and you guys are the best thing ever, no one can compete with us? Or are we kind of like a me too? This is where we've got to kind of be objective versus, our own opinions. And there's a leading tool that the Blue Ocean Toolkit has, which I think is one of the most important tools literally of the past 20 years. There's three or four tools that I would put in this category, and this is one of them. It's called the Strategy Canvas. And we use it in two ways. We use it at the very beginning, and it's called the As-Is Canvas, like this one, and then a To-Be Canvas, which I'll show next. And the goal of the Blue Ocean strategy process is to figure out, document, how do we compete now, which is, I'll walk through this, shown on this canvas. Who do we compete against? What are these things that we compete on, factors, and how are we viewed? You can look at this as your value curve. Every company in the world has what we call a value curve. How does the customer perceive your value versus somebody else's? And the most important piece is at the bottom of this. These are the competing factors that you believe are the most important things that you compete upon. We're going to talk a lot about this because we want to move away from just the industry norms of how you compete to really what the customer's most important things that they want. And sometimes those are very different. If you just jump into an industry and you say, oh, we have to compete on X, Y, and Z because that's what our competitors compete on. Well, that's wrong. Maybe the customer could care less, but that's the only thing that they have options for. So you think it's the right competing factors. Once we list our competing factors on the bottom, and this is just a made-up example here I did for this one. Price is everywhere, so it's already baked in. But, stores, how many stores do we have? And on the left-hand side, we literally have, a low offer to a very high focused area, right? Yes, we have more retail stores than competitor B. We have a SaaS offering, they don't. We have local presence, the other one doesn't. Delivery mobile service, number of engineers, products or services are easy to use. The products are available. So the first thing we do is you list, how do you compete right now? What do you think are the most important things you're competing on. And then we literally put bubbles, how good is our offering, right? Our price is kind of middle of the road, not too many stores, we don't really have much of an offering, but then you have some more of these other things. And then you connect the dots. Those connecting the dots is literally your value curve. That is how people perceive your offering. When you do your main one or two competitors and do the same exact exercise with them, and you link their dots, put a different color pin, whatever you want to do, dots, you will start to see that you overlap in most cases with your competitors. And so the customer is looking at these offerings, and you might think you're the greatest ever because you have better service and sales and you work harder. But at the end of the day, the customer is like, kind of looks the same to me. Do I really care which one I choose? Not really, not on this scenario. Doesn't really matter to me. So we need to understand these levers, these competing factors, so that we can change them and start focusing on the most important ones that we think the customers are prioritizing. Our assumptions are just the first step, though. And as you go through the Blue Ocean journey, the most important thing is to go out and validate and gather insights from the customers. Are these actually the most important factors the customer cares about? And we want to actually change some of these or add new ones to figure out, what? Customer doesn't even care about X, Y, and Z. They care about 1, 2, and 3 new factors. That's how you start to innovate and change your value curve. And when you do that, at the end of a Blue Ocean journey, talking to customers, interviewing, experimenting, you hope that something looks like this. You've got your 2 main competitors in red. They're kind of overlapping, no big deal. And when you get through a Blue Ocean journey, and again, remember, this is not to your same customers. This is to some new customers with new problems. We're going to get rid of certain features that we actually have found the customers don't value that much. So why do we want to spend time, money, and resources actually creating things that they don't really want? We're going to de-emphasize a few others, but then we're going to create new ones, and we're going to accentuate where these people down here aren't really focused on these factors. We've learned the customers really value this, and so we're going to up our level of offering there. And we're going to create new factors that don't even exist. And now our value curve looks completely different than our competitors to these new customers in new space. You can charge a premium for that, or keep your price low and try and get a much more market share. Sometimes you can do both. So that's what a Blue Ocean Strategy 2B canvas looks like as you go through the journey. So let's look at some Blue Oceans, the fun stuff. What do some of these examples look like? And some are very simple. It doesn't have to be some technological breakthrough. It's not radical innovation in a technology standpoint in most cases. So when you think about classical music, and I'm not a classical music goer, what do you think about? You guys can all unmute and blurt out some answers. When you think classical music, what does it look and feel like? Don't be shy.
Peace.
It stirs up emotions.
Okay, keep them going.
Formal.
Formal, okay. All right, I'm going to help you out here. So how about, formal. How about like small, opulent auditoriums? We sit there in silence, right, and we listen. How about food and beverage? Does anybody come through going, get your peanuts or popcorn? No. It's mostly adults, right? You don't, have kids and little babies at, really boring classical music concerts. Older, affluent crowd, usually a famous conductor, right? He's leading everything. And he usually has his back to you, right? You only see him when he's at the end of a thing and turns around. Traditional classic music normally, and usually pretty expensive. It's not, like you're going to go to the fair and listen to a throwback concert. So who has heard of Andre Rieu before? Anybody heard of Andre Rieu or gone to one of his concerts? If you have, just throw up a thumbs emoji. All right. So what I'm going to do is play you a quick 90-second, 2-minute video, and then talk about how he's created a blue ocean in this space. Reshare my screen. Sorry about that. Hold on. Here we go. All right. I think you guys can all see this. Okay.
So Brian, as you're resharing, I'll pose a question that came in. That sounds good.
Go
Or
for it.
June had the question. Go ahead, June. I'd love for you to share.
On your chart, on the strategy canvas, you made assumptions of where, no, on the, let's see, which the last one that had, where you were making assumptions where everybody was your competitors and yourself with all those, features on the bottom. That's it. As is strategy canvas. Yeah, as is strategy canvas. So what process did you use in your mind to come up with where the dots go on the canvas?
Yeah, good question. And so this is really get you and your leadership team together, right? And you're sitting there in the room and you're doing your planning, and it's your gut feel. It's like, okay, is our price lower or higher than our competitor? Pick your two main ones, right? Oh, we're a little bit, higher. Okay, fine. Are we here? Are there people that are even higher than us? Or are we at the top of the market? So it's really your gut feel. This is your, best guess, your experience. You're the experts in your space, in your industry, or at least you better be. So you should know your main competitors and how you stack up against them, right? And the rest of your team. So don't just do it yourself. You should have your whole team in the room. And as the more important question, are the down here on the bottom, what are those key factors that we're competing against? And I guarantee you this will happen. And I will send anyone a Starbucks card who proves me wrong. Take this and do it with your team and have everybody do it individually. You will come up with vastly different answers. Your chief marketing person, your finance person, your HR person, your ops person, you'll have different areas where you put these things, but more importantly, you're going to have different things on the bottom. That's step one, which is to create a single version of the truth. As a team, what do you really agree on are the most important things you are competing on now, and how are you viewed? Because if you don't have that, you have people going in 50 directions. They think other things are more important than you think. So this is how you get onto one page going forward together. Then we go through the journey of finding out, what? Some of those factors we don't really care about to these new non-customers because they have different needs, and we have to create new services or features. And then you can really move the levers up and down because you're creating the rules, right? These are new offerings, right? You don't have to keep everything the same as it was. And you can drastically change your value curve. So we're going to show you some of those examples. So as we go back through Andre Rieu, right, you saw he basically blends pop music concerts with classical music. And I want to go to one of those concerts. I've never been. It looks amazing, right? It's nothing like you would traditionally see a classical music concert, but he's still playing classical music. These, the fireworks, the lights, outdoor, right, amphitheater, tons of people. You can see half the people here are just in regular t-shirts and button-down shirts. There's no tuxes. So he's drastically changed the feel, the vibe, the venue, right? The experience from a normal concert, classical music concert. When we look at this, these are the 4 areas of Blue Ocean that we focus on through the journey. What factors do we want to eliminate? Because if you just have everything else that your competition currently has and you just start building on, well, your costs are going to be out of this world, right? We have to get rid of stuff. You can't just keep building on things or else you're going to have, low margins at a very high price. So what do these people don't care about? Well, they don't care about serious classical music. They don't care about a stuffy auditorium. They don't care about this adult only feel. So from more emotional things to physical, functional things like an auditorium. We want to reduce the formality, right? There's the old golf clap atmosphere in a classical concert. We want to get rid of that. We're literally going to reduce ticket prices, but he wants to raise audience engagement, this kind of community, right? You see people sitting around longer tables where they're kind of eating together, standing there dancing, this fun vibe, and create new things that didn't exist, right? This party atmosphere, this large outdoor venues where you normally don't see classical music. And this last one's important. He turned around and all the clips you saw, he was facing the audience versus you're back to him like, this is the traditional guy, and he turns around. He was facing you, so he's engaged with the audience. All these things are a very different value curve now. He's created a whole different vibe. And by doing that, he can literally draw his curve much different than anyone else he's competing against. So let's look at some more functional, basic examples. Toilet paper. My favorite example. You're like, it's toilet paper, Brian. What else are you going to do with it? Well, Kimberly Clark, CEO for South America, came to Blue Ocean. So these are the, sometimes you'll read research papers and books and it's like, oh, we went back and put these variables and parameters against this theory and, this is what we came out with. But they didn't actually go through the process. Kimberly Clark hired Blue Ocean Strategy Institute to go through the process. And their teams got together and their goal was, how do we sell more toilet paper to the not the major customers, which is the 1%, wealthiest. These were the small villages, the 90% of the people who are, living outside of the major metropolitan area. How do we sell more toilet paper to them? First thing they do is go talk to those people, literally stand outside the grocery stores and do experiments, interviews, surveys. Why don't you buy more toilet paper instead of just a 4-pack? Why don't you buy a 12-pack? Why don't you buy ours? Why did you buy that? And at the end of the day, there was a couple of things that kept coming up that were really simple that anyone could have done. The first one is that 90% of the people that were going to these big stores, they don't drive up in their F-150 like we do at Costco here in the States. They're taking buses and trains and light rail. And it's usually the mom who's living in a favela, very small, 10 people in a small area. They don't have storage. She has no way to drive herself there. It's public transportation. She can't carry, like the bottom left here, a 12-pack of toilet paper because how's she going to carry her groceries home? She's going to get groceries. And when they get home, there's nowhere to store it, right? So you see a roll of 12 stacked up on the water heater here. Like, I don't have room to store all this stuff. So they said, why don't we just literally, bottom right, squeeze the toilet paper roll together. It's now saving us 40% packaging costs, 40% storage costs, logistics costs, and let's put a plastic handle on this plastic 8-pack roll of toilet paper so now mom could carry it while she's carrying the groceries on the bus. Their sales skyrocketed and they made it out of recycled paper. They are the #1 toilet paper seller to Walmart globally because of this. Massive increase in revenues for them in South America and Mexico. And all they did was squeeze it together, put a handle on it, make it out of recycled paper, right? So you're like, it's nothing earth-shattering around technology. You're like, well, why didn't someone else think of that? Well, because they didn't go ask the customer what your problems are, right? And these segments, not the 1%ers, had a very different problem. How many of you ladies have gone to a dry bar or something similar, right? Called a blow dry bar or anything else where you don't actually get your hair cut, but you just go for a style? Anyone? Yes, I see Emma says yes. Okay. I haven't yet, but maybe I will. So these lady and her brother, they were stylists, and people kept coming into their salon. Started in Orange County, California. So we see a lot here in California. And especially ladies would come in and say, I don't want a haircut. I just want you to style it and wash it because I got a party tonight, right? I don't want to color and all this stuff. And most stylists, and you ladies know, they want you there for a couple hours because it's, a couple $100 to do a color and a cut and all these things. They're like, yeah, I don't have time to fit you in for a 30-minute just, styling your hair. I got to make more money, time in my seat. I don't have that availability. So she's like, why don't we just create a salon where we don't do any cutting of hair? We don't do any coloring of hair. All we're doing is styling it. We're going to wash it, blow dry it, and style it. 30 minutes, 45 minutes, you're out the door, you're off to your party, you got an event tonight, wedding, whatever it is. They sell champagne. It's a nice, clean environment with music, and they're in and out in 30, 45 minutes. They, in 10 years, opened about 30 locations, $7 million in revenues. And you say, well, someone else could do that. Well, they did, because their barriers to entry are very low, right? You don't have to have a license now. You're not cutting anyone's hair. There's no certified license as a stylist. So other blow dry bars popped up. So what did they do? They actually pivoted again and said, okay, what do our customers actually need and want besides just us doing this? They created their own line of dry bar products, because these people, this is what they want, right? Styling, iron and brushes and blow dryers and good quality. They made millions off of this, because now you're trying to just go and sell augmented products and services right off of what you've done. So nothing lasts forever. You've got to continue to pivot and innovate. But it's just another simple example. How many of you have been to a Citizen M hotel? They're in a lot of major metropolitan areas around the world now. Anyone? Okay. So Citizen M literally went to Blue Ocean Institute and said, help us. These are two hotel people in the industry for decades. They said, we want to start a new hotel chain. And so we're going to look backwards. We're going to start with our canvas and then take a look at where some pictures look like. They said, we want to be this 3.5-star hotel price, but we want a 5-star experience. Well, like, okay, how do you do that? You've got to cut something, or else your price is going to be the same as the Ritz, right? Like, we don't want the price the same as the Ritz, so what are you going to cut out? So they said, our segment we're going after is not the family, it's not the people vacationing, it's the business traveler. And the business traveler is going to be, right downtown Paris and London, San Francisco, New York, right? We're not in the rural areas. We're right downtown these cities, and they're the business traveler. So they went to business travelers and said, what do you not care about, really? And they're like, I don't care about a front desk. Just give me a little kiosk like we go to Southwest Airlines and give me my ticket. Why do I got to stand in line? I don't care about a bellhop, right? Because usually you don't have tons of luggage. I don't care about your restaurant. The most expensive part of any hotel is a restaurant. Food, square footage, employees, like, get rid of them. Why am I going to go to the hotel Marriott restaurant when I'm in London and I got 25-star restaurants, around the corner from me? It's a waste. Got rid of it. Room types. I mean, do we really need a bunch of different room types? Not really when you're business traveling. It's like, give me a couple beds and a desk and Wi-Fi. And that's what they said we want to accentuate. Give me really good clean sheets and high thread count and nice towels. Free extras. Don't charge me for water and coffee and Wi-Fi. That should all be included. And then give me these self check-in and, call it an ambassador, a person who's walking in and doing everything. Could be a concierge, a bill person, a front desk person, all wrapped into one. And we'll come back, we'll show you some room types, how they did this. So we lowered our costs, we increased what these people want, but we kept our price down here in the 3.5 range. So the first thing they did, this is what it looks like. It's very cookie cutter, right? It doesn't have to be anything fancy from the outside. but this is right downtown. I think this is Amsterdam. Here's a room, right? There's no wasted square feet. Your bed is up to the walls on both sides. And here's your little desk. Here's your shower, right? Their tagline, the most fun you'll have in 14 square meters. So we're not worried about, the little love seat in the corner that no one ever uses, or your little, fridge somewhere else. It's like, just give me really nice bedding and hot water and a Wi-Fi and a desk. That's all I care about. So to lower their costs, they got rid of the front staff down here. They put in the kiosks, no more waiting in line. So got rid of all those type of employees. And the big thing to lower their costs, they outsourced building of the rooms. These are all modular. So all they did was build the structure with the same size rooms. These are built offsite by a third party, and all they do is slide them in on rails. So now their costs went down 200% versus their competitors. So this is a really unique way to look at who your customers are. How do we get rid of the stuff that they just don't care about, but you think you need to compete on because that's what the rules of your game are? Well, you can change those rules. Here's a good example of overlaying the canvas. When we look at this, eliminate, reduce, raise, and create. These are the things we're trying to pull these levers. Ringling Brothers, when they first started, they were thought of as a circus, right? Cirque du Soleil. So they said, we are still considered a circus, more even though we're upscale. We compete with Ringling Brothers, other regional circus. So they said, we're going to get rid of these star performers. We're going to get rid of these animal shows, which is the most costly part of any circus, is animals and feeding and caring and transport. We're going to get rid of the whole aisle concessions, get your peanuts, get your popcorn. We're going to then lower and reduce the whole fun and humor, right? There's no clowns running around with, the horns and the funny cars. Some humor, but not as much as a regular show. We're going to get rid of the thrills and dangers, like there's no tigers and, you think the guy's going to get mauled and put his head in the tiger mouth. So they're still doing trapeze, so they might fall, but less, right? You're going to reduce that. What they were going to raise is, we go to a circus. We're used to going to sitting on metal bleachers in a tent. Maybe it's hot in the middle of summer. No, we're going to change that to more of this, like you're going to a play, right? Like you'd see in the, Philharmonic or something very nice and formal. And then we're going to change and create these new things. They're themes, right? Every year, Cirque du Soleil has a different theme that whether it's water or, animals or dance. And we're going to really look at the art and music and dance as the key differentiator versus some of the other things that other circuses are known for. So now they're seen as very different. You could still have someone going to a circus that's going to be their customer, right? You're not competing against them. You're changing the value curve. But someone who wants to entertain, you're still going to have your disposable dollars. Oh, do we want to go to Ringling Brothers or to Cirque du Soleil this year? So this is how you can overlay that and really look at your eliminate, reduce, raise, create variables. I'm going to make sure we leave time here for some questions. So in summary, what did we do today? We looked at why we need to innovate and use proven frameworks. We examined becoming an ambidextrous organization, right? You need to explore while you're exploiting. Exploiting is table stakes, but you also got to look and fill your pipeline with new ideas. We educated on what Blue Ocean strategy is. We reviewed how to shift from a red to a blue ocean at a high level, and we gave some examples of blue oceans. So at the end of the day, the goal and the strategy behind Blue Ocean is to break the value cost trade-off, right? Break down your current wall boundaries, how you have to compete, because most of you didn't create the industry you're in. So you're bound by, constraints of what you compete on. Look past those markets to new markets where you can find customers that have problems that haven't been solved, that are similar jobs, functions that you're doing now, and you can actually solve those problems and monetize that. So I'm going to stop there. We've got time for questions and open it up for questions. Oops. Put my stuff there in case you want to comment.
Emma, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I actually have two questions for you, Brian. One is I led digital transformations when I worked at Salesforce, and we used Blue Ocean. in conjunction with BMC, the Business Model Canvas. And I found the BMC to be an easier way to analyze your as-is state, because it has all the categories very clearly identified, the value proposition, your partners, where your revenue, where your costs are. I was just curious, what are your thoughts in terms of combining the two, or are you a fan of one versus the other?
This is a great question. I'm going to stop sharing so I can see everybody. So Emma, you kind of threw me a softball, so I appreciate you being playing along. I actually am a coach for Strategizer, the people who created the Business Model Canvas. So I work with Alex Osterwalder, who created that.
I swear I did not know that.
Yeah, so if you see the
That's
book,
cool.
I actually am coaching for all these books, and soon to be hopefully here Sharon, which we'll touch on again. So I coach with Alex, and the Business Model Canvas is one of my favorite tools. It's not an either or. So even if you're using the Blue Ocean strategy process, that process is around exploring new ideas to find new space, right? Even if you find it, you need to create your business model. The Blue Ocean framework is not a business model. It is exploration of new ideas. So if you found the new idea, like Kimberly Clark, right, you still need to go back and either use the Business Model Canvas or the Lean Canvas, which is more for startups, and document your business model. So I use them both with people. And usually we'll have several business models because you have several different ideas that you're working on, right? Maybe you have 4 or 5 ideas in the Blue Ocean journey. You're like, oh, that's cool. And that might work. And that might work, because you don't know. You need to literally have a business model canvas created for each of these. And then we need to go out and experiment and test and say, yeah, that didn't really work. Well, then hopefully at the end of it, one of these idea works. And with your business model, then you can say, okay, yeah, there is enough people with this problem per my business model. I can monetize it. I've got the channels. I've got the partners. I have the capabilities, right? Or maybe you don't have certain things, and the business model canvas helps illuminate those. I need new partners. I need new channels to go after to enable this new idea to work. So I use them together. It's not an either or. It's a way, Blue Ocean's a way to look at finding new opportunities outside of your market. And I'll say this, there's a term that all of you should know. And the speaker, one of the speakers who created this term, will be speaking for us in 2 months. And the term is called jobs to be done. And Tony Olwick, along with Clayton Christensen, a former professor at Harvard, are kind of credited with creating this concept of jobs to be done. And instead of looking at your customers as what's my problem the customer has, which is, it's easy, look at your customers as what job is my customer trying to get done. And that is actually how, when we look at the Blue Ocean, outside of our current market and the tools, like, well, what is that adjacent market or substitute product? What's the person trying to get done in that market? Because otherwise it's really hard to figure out. You're like, well, this isn't who I serve. I mean, how do I find this new customer? Well, think about other people trying to get similar jobs done, whether it's hang a painting on a wall. Okay, well, I need a drill and a drill bit and a molly bolt, and then I need, the wiring. And well, okay, but what if we say, well, the person just wants to hang a picture on a wall versus the construction or tool industry? What if I just have 3M heavy duty tape or Velcro? Got the same job done. So I use that example a lot, right? Because you go to Home Depot, you'll find the Velcro and 3M tape in the same place you buy a drill. You're like, well, that's odd. Well, it's getting the same job done. So when you think about Blue Ocean segments, you're thinking about people getting a similar job done that you can help them do better. And then we want to create that business model around this idea, to your question, Emma. So it's a really good question.
And then thank you for that. That was super helpful, Brian. And real quick, for startups though, to me, BMC, I'm thinking more of, you have an established business, you kind of have a base customers. But if you have an idea as a startup, are there any tools that you would recommend to think through and brainstorm and identify customers and market size and all that?
I'm smiling, and I think Cameron is too, because you're a good straight lady. We have, and we'll talk about this here in a second, the series of webinars coming up throughout the rest of the year. And I'm not just drinking the Kool-Aid. we're going to have speakers who you would pay thousands of dollars to go listen to and talk to and meet. So again, Strategizer is going to speak. I'm actually meeting with Tendai Vicky, who's Alex Osterwalder's colleague and partner. Strategizer are going to talk to us. But to answer your question, Ash Moria, who created the Lean Canvas, which is an offshoot of the business model canvas, Ash is going to talk in probably September, October. The Lean Canvas is, in my view, a little bit better tool for a startup person to use because he changed 4 of the boxes on the business model canvas. The rest of it's all the same. And the problem is more overt on the canvas for a startup. So Cameron will throw it up here in a second, but so we're going to talk about the Lean Canvas with Ash, Strategizer and corporate innovation. Tony Olwick's going to come talk about jobs to be done. If is Sharon still on or does she have to drop? We're going to talk about where to play.
She did drop, yeah. It's
Okay,
11 p.m. where she's at.
Yeah, so on the front end of Lean startup is like, okay, before I do my canvas, kind of like Blue Ocean, where do I play? What are my core capabilities? You know, where can I leverage these? And so it's a very good topic with what you're talking about, Emma, and Sharon, with us. She's going to talk in July. We'll have a few more as well. David Bland, who wrote the book on testing business ideas about experimenting, he's going to talk. So please go register for the rest. I mean, this is a lineup that no other business school in the world has these people come to talk to them. Literally no one. So because I coach with these people, they're going to speak to us. So I'm really excited for you and for everyone else. Could be anywhere in the world joining in. My colleague and friend Iman is joining in. He is a coach with me as well for Strategizer. So and I know he's a long way away and it's very late his time. Hopefully that helps you. The Lean Canvas is something that you should look into, and we're happy to send it to you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Maybe
Very quick aside, Emma, and this is something that everyone does. If you're using the business model canvas, you literally cannot use it unless you're using the value proposition canvas in conjunction with it. So are you familiar with the value prop canvas?
No, I'm not.
And that might be part of the problem, is people see the business model canvas and it's taught in business schools, but people are not taught the value prop canvas. It is the tool that is underneath the business model canvas that Alex and Strategizer created. It is where your problems reside. It talks about the customer's jobs, their pains, their gains, and how you've created something that solves those problems. Because if you look at the business model canvas, there's nowhere on there that talks about the customer's problems. So people just use it as a checklist and they fill it in and go, okay, I'm done. Like, well, you didn't do the real work, which is the value prop canvas, to make sure what you've created, the customer actually gives a crap about, because you didn't solve their problems.
Thank you. That was super helpful, Brian.
You bet.
So just adding on, so Brian mentioned kind of that we're running a whole series here, and I kind of mentioned that at the top. So that last link that's in the chat, you can click on that, and that shows all the different workshops that are coming our way. And feel free to click through and register. They're all free opportunities. And then I do ask that if you have some time and have the ability to fill out that webinar survey, that will give us some good feedback, and then also supports us with our work with the Small Business Development Center. So please do fill that out. In terms of our upcoming workshop, we do have Sharon Tall, who will be tackling where to play and specifically how to find the right market for your innovation. So should be a great workshop, and that will be on July 12th at 10:30 a.m. So join us then, and just wanted to do those quick plugs before we have a couple additional questions. So
yeah, thank you, Cameron. Any other questions? We still got a couple minutes.
I have a question. Where do you think Andre got this idea to do this? Do you think he had a vision, like you get an idea and you put it together in your mind, you see it, or do you think it was him and business people trying to find other markets?
I honestly don't know that answer, June, but if I was to guess, it was probably like, he probably talked to people and you're like, oh, hey, come to my concert. Why don't you go? I'm not a really classical music fan. Well, what music do you like? Oh, go to rock concerts. Well, or he's probably went to a rock concert, right? So you see things, you hear things, right? You put it all together. You're like, I can do that. I mean, why don't I still play the same music, but I can change the vibe. And, So it could be any of those things. It could be several of those, but yeah, I don't really know the exact details. If you guys want extra help, like Cameron talked about at the beginning, I do this for a living, right? This is free. We do these webinars, but I help companies and startups either launch or pivot or find new customers, walk them through these journeys, Blue Ocean, Business Model Canvas, Lean Canvas, right? And they're very related. So if you need help, you want to engage me, please do. Happy to have a free call. We can do those through mentor hours with, Carlson Center. And then if you want to engage me, separately, great. We can do that. And it could be at whatever scope and level you want. So, because I know some of you here have some businesses you're trying to pivot, find some new customer segments. And I currently, do some of these things with some Fortune 500 companies, as well as lots of startups in the region. So wherever you're at, happy to have that conversation in your journey. Any other questions before we end? Or if there's no questions, if anyone wants to unmute, I would love someone just to give me a couple of their insights. Any ahas or key nuggets they're going to take away from today. Hopefully they're positive.
Yeah,
I'm taking away that I have to get to know my competitors.
In my case, I'm not in camera, but I'm Mercy. My great takeaway is to actually look into my company to see what are we doing, and so that way we can offer more or change the Canva, like you said. But it's like learning more about my company. I know what I do, but it's like these little things that you explain is like incredible.
Yes. Very good. James, I just see you wrote in there, which is great. Recurring theme of solving customers' problems, not the problems you think they have. And that's the key, and they change, right? I mean, we all COVID, right? Overnight, all of our problems changed, some more than others. And, some went out of business and didn't pivot, some thrived. Any other nuggets or insights anyone took away? Need to get buy-in from the team on thinking. You said yes. There you go, Chris. Yeah. Make sure your team is aligned on how they think you guys create, deliver, and capture value, which is the definition of a business model. Because they might think certain things are more important than you think. And you're like, oh, well, I thought that was, common sense. And you're like, no. Because a sales guy and an ops guy and a finance guy are going to have very different lens. They see the world differently. Get on the same page. Cool. Well, we hope that this was valuable. I always love talking about this stuff. And again, July 12th, we'll start the series. I'll be on vacation a while with Sharon Tall. The book is Where to Play behind me. It is a new bestseller. It is blessed by the lean startup community with Strategizer, with a lot of folks who are the big thought leaders in the world. And I'll probably be coaching with her very soon because it's a tool that augments the business model canvas and lean canvas and that whole lean startup mentality. So even Blue Ocean, it kind of helps you figure out your core capabilities, evaluate opportunities. So it's a good tool. So we hope to see you then. And Cameron, back to you to sign us off.
Yep, you got it. Well, thank you, Brian. Let's give a virtual round of applause for Brian and leading us through the workshop there. So thank you. In terms of just some final logistics, we will be following up with a recording as well as the slides that Brian went through. So keep an eye out for that. And then additionally sign up for our future sessions. The next one coming on July 12th, Where to Play with Sharon Tall. And please do fill out that survey so we can always get better and continue to innovate ourselves. So we appreciate the feedback and support. And without further ado, we'll let you go and keep on innovating and building those great companies. So thanks for being here. And we look forward to seeing you on July 12th. Talk to you later.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.